Hey everybody, Retro Pie Guy here. Today we're going to jump into a full demo and review of this new NYXI wireless controller for the Nintendo Switch that's geared towards children. You can see I have the controller right here. Clearly not an adult geared controller here in any way, but for kids this is absolutely awesome looking. So clearly it's supposed to have that sort of cat theme to it. We have the ears up here. We also have little cute little claws down here. Love the color scheme on here. I think that's going to be great for kids. And the cool thing about it is it's pretty compact, pretty small, but also comfortable to adults as well. I'm holding on to it right now and it feels great in my hands, but it is definitely, at least a third smaller than your typical size controller, that of like a PS5 or Xbox sort of controller. So I think it's gonna be great for kids. I have 3 kids myself, so I know all too well what it's like finding a controller that works for a much younger gamer that has smaller hands. And your typical standard controllers usually are going to be a problem because they're just built for the average size person. They're a little bit too cumbersome for kids to hold on to and to hit all of the buttons the way that you're supposed to in games, so it can definitely be a frustrating experience for your kids to actually game on something like that. And if it's frustrating for them, I know it's frustrating for you guys. I'm a parent, I have 3 kids. If they're uncomfortable or not loving something, they're going to make sure that we know about it. So definitely want to see what this is all about. I'm stoked to jump in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unbox this. We're going to take a look at what it comes with, how it comes. We're going to jump into the functions and features on here, just do a full external tour of the controller itself. And then I'm going to sync it up here with my Nintendo Switch, dive into a game and test out the performance. Once I test everything out, I'm going to jump back here and talk a little bit about it, tell you guys exactly what my experience is here and what I like and don't like. So let's jump into it. All right, so here we have our NYXI wireless controller for the Nintendo Switch. Again, this is geared towards children. You can see opening this up, really unique and bright color design here. I absolutely love the way that this looks. Obviously, I'm a grown man here, and this probably would not be my first choice controller, given the way that it looks, but for kids, and I have 3 of them, this is an absolute home run in design. So we're gonna take a closer look at it. I'm actually gonna set this aside just for a moment though. I wanna see what else gets included in here. So looks like we have a manual and of course our charging cable here. So I'm gonna get rid of the box. And let's first take a look at the charging cable. Is pretty much your typical charging cable here. It's a Type-C. So I'm going to put that aside. Really good length on here. A lot of these that come with controllers like this are really short. I like the fact that we look like we have about, I would say at least 2 feet, maybe 3 feet on this, which is great. Again, most of them are short. I got one the other day that was super short. It was like ridiculous. I couldn't even get it down to like a surface from the outlet when I was plugging it into an outlet. So here we have our manual. One thing that I love about NYXI is they are really giving you a lot of information here. And this is actually, it goes this way, but it's pretty much the same thing. It's just in different languages. So you have your bases covered regardless of which language you speak. But what's really cool here is the fact that you have this diagram up here. And it actually shows you all the functions and features. So if you're not familiar with Switch controllers, as a lot of people aren't, when they first start out with a Nintendo Switch, this comes in handy. I always go through here and I'm always finding new things that I didn't even realize were a part of my controllers. We also have instructions on how to set this up with Nintendo Switch, little pictures as well, which makes it super easy for somebody that's visual like me. So absolutely love the way that NYXI puts all this stuff together. So I'm going to set that aside for now and let's dive into the controller itself. So again, really unique design here. I like the colors. I like the cat sort of design here. It's clearly supposed to be the cat with the ears up here. We also have these little rubber grips here, and they're actually 3-dimensional if we can get the right angle there. They're raised up, which actually gives you a little something to grab onto as well. So it's not just for design purposes. It actually has a function as well that it just gives you a little something to keep you from sliding off. But clearly these are supposed to be the claws or paws of the cat. Really like this, and I will point out these ears up here. When I first saw that, I thought, oh, that's got to be kind of awkward because your triggers and shoulder buttons are up there, but they're not. They're right behind it. So this actually gives you a little ledge to rest your fingers up against. It actually gives you a little more comfort there, and I think security as well. So it's just something to grasp onto and rest up against, and I think it's going to help from potentially dropping these or losing your grip. And if you're giving this to a kid, which again, you're likely going to do with this design. I think anything that helps a kid secure this and not end up with this bouncing off the floor or the walls is a home run. So now in terms of the layout here for the controls, very typical of your modern day controller, A, B, X, and Y over here, 4-button configuration. Left side, you're gonna have an analog stick, which is really smooth. I gotta say, really smooth, and you don't have to just rock, all the way around the circle here. You can make smaller circles. You can really, navigate it exactly how you would want to in game. It also has the button function as well. Great feedback there. Same thing over here on the right side. And I like the way these are laid out and staggered, very similar to that of an Xbox controller. Now we have our home buttons, we have our plus and minus buttons and all that good stuff here in the center. Slightly different layout than what you typically have on a Nintendo Switch controller, but I like it. I like that these are, a little bit bigger and easier to navigate to here. I think it's going to definitely be easier for a kid to use those. Center button here, great functionality as well. And then the D-pad. If you've seen any review videos that I've done in the past on controllers, I'm super picky about D-pads, and I'm always doing this. I'm always just testing out how they scroll or roll, rather, when going in a circular motion, because typically a D-pad is always going to function properly up, down, left, and right. But you really want to test and see what it does when you're using this for navigation purposes, kind of going through those diagonal, directions and, seeing how well it functions when you're not just going up, down, left, and right. And it really does a great job here. So I'm really happy with that. And I gotta say, again, I'm an adult here. I think we all know that, if you couldn't tell by my tattoos here, but it's definitely small for me, but this is a really compact and really comfortable controller. I'm actually surprised. I thought this was going to be really puny for me. And, it is definitely smaller than what I'm used to. I'm used to something that's, probably a third bigger than this at least. But really, really comfortable. I gotta say, it's sculpted perfectly to my hands, which is great, just, on a smaller scale. So I think this is going to be great for kids. My daughter was using one of these the other day. Now she is almost 3 and isn't gaming a whole lot. She just pretty much grabs the controller and plays more with the controller than actually following on screen. But she was holding it. You can see in the thumbnail for this video, she's holding it, and it fit great in her hands. And my 9-year-old stepson, about to be 10, he was holding this as well. This is definitely not what he would want to play with. This is not the cool choice for a 10-year-old boy, but it definitely fit really nicely in his hands as well. And again, it's fitting in my hands too, so great job there. Now let's talk about the shoulder and trigger buttons up here. Shoulder buttons located right behind these kitty ears. Really great functionality here. Doesn't take much to pull the trigger, but they're not overly, or shoulder button rather. Doesn't take much to engage those buttons, but they're not overly sensitive either, so it's a great balance. Now, trigger buttons. In the past, I've never been big on hinged trigger buttons, and you can see that they're hinged here. They have the hinge up here, and then you're pulling back in kind of like a circular motion as opposed to just pulling directly in like you would up here on the shoulder button. I was never into these on like handhelds because they just didn't function and perform well. Typically, my biggest complaint was they had a sweet spot, so you couldn't just engage them anywhere on here. You really had to find like the sweet spot and stick to using it there. That's not the case here. You can hit it over here, you can hit it over here, hit it right close to that hinge, or all the way over here. Everywhere that you hit this trigger performs exactly the same way and hits that function spot on. These are very much in line with the PlayStation 5 trigger buttons, and PlayStation 5 is the first trigger button with a hinge that really won me over, and now I actually prefer it. But when they first came out and when people were starting to integrate them into controllers, I was not a fan. It took until the PlayStation 5 for me to really be a solid fan of the hinged triggers, and these perform exactly like that of the PlayStation 5. Love the way that these feel, love the way that they function. Really happy with them. You can barely hear them when I'm pulling these. And they're not overly sensitive, not difficult to pull either. It's just a great balance on the functionality when hitting these. So really love that. That's about it on here. Just a really solid design, really well made. Nothing about this feels cheap. It's light, but it's clearly made extremely well. And nothing cheap about this in any way. So I'm going to set this up on my Switch. We're going to jump into some Switch games here. I'm actually just going to go with, I only have one family-friendly game on hand today, and that is Sonic Racing, or Team Sonic Racing. So I'm going to jump into that with this, and we're going to test out exactly how well this actually performs, because so far, so good on here, but I definitely want to see what the performance is like in-game. All right, so here I am jumping into Team Sonic Racing, and I'm going to be Tails for this race. I forget which track I chose, but we're going to see how this controller performs now.
Set me up for a slingshot, teammate. Take that.
You did that on purpose.
Scatter, you also ran.
So far, so good. This is really a smooth controller. Steering is on point. I'm really not that good at this game, but I haven't crashed at all, knock on wood. But like even picking up the rings and stuff, usually I'm just all over the road. I'm pretty on point here.
I felt that.
Spoiler alert, we're gonna crush you. Hey, a little assistance, please. Oh, that was unpleasant.
Coming in for a boost, buddy.
Hey, a little assistance, please.
Team, you may be in trouble. Sweet slingshotting, thanks. Ouch! Right in the kisser. First place, best of the best.
All right, everybody, we just jumped out of Team Sonic Racing here, and I gotta say, I was really pulling for this controller to be exceptional. As soon as I popped it out of the box, saw the unique color scheme, really cool design here with the cat ears and the paws at the bottom. I was hoping this was gonna be a home run controller, hoping it was gonna be exceptional, and I gotta say, it has just been absolutely phenomenal. It's exceeded my expectations, and I gotta say this, it is the best Nintendo Switch controller for children. It's obviously on that smaller scale. Finding controllers on a smaller scale for kids is definitely hard to come by, but it's even harder to come by smaller scale controllers for the Nintendo Switch that perform like the bigger ones. The analog sticks here had me concerned, in all honesty, right off the bat. I didn't want to vocalize that because I didn't want to potentially point out negatives before fully testing this, and I'm glad I didn't. Smaller analog sticks typically, in my opinion and in my experience, usually give you less performance than that of, a chunkier, larger scale controller, because you have less range of motion. Usually you're not able to navigate as well. It's usually that you're going all the way out to the outer edge of here to, navigate, steer, whatever you're doing in your game. And you're not able to do like the smaller motions as precisely. That's not the case here. You saw me racing here as Tails in Team Sonic Racing, and I was on point. I'm usually not on point with racing games. I go into a lot of racing games to test out controllers because I find that testing those analog sticks out is better on actual racing games because you're using them more. You're using them at a fast speed, so you're really able to test their performance. I gotta say, I have a bunch of controllers here in my office that I use, day to day for regular gaming. I have some Power A's, I have some 8-bit Do's, I have an official Xbox controller and an official PlayStation 5 controller. This controller right here is better than those for analog sticks alone. That's crazy to say, but it's true. I'm just so on point with those. And you've seen other racing videos here that I've done. I'm usually overcorrecting, oversteering, just an absolute mess navigating on most racing games. And I gotta say here, this game, I was at my best. I was really hitting all the turns just on point, hitting all of the rings along the way. Usually I'm grabbing like 4 rings at a time because I'm just all over the track. I was grabbing those. I got a couple power-ups from the car in front of me, just on point. And it's not me, that's the controller. You can see my performance in other videos. I'm not that good at racing games. So this just made me feel like a pro. So props to NYXI for that. Boosting my ego when it comes to racing games, but button functionality throughout, great feedback on here. Just great performance. There's no binds, no sticks. There's nothing concerning on here at all. Love those trigger buttons, as I said, jumping into this when we were doing our tour of the outside of this controller. Not huge on hinged triggers, but the PS5 changed my mind, like their hinge triggers, and this is exactly like that of the PS5. Just on point. Love that. And the ears actually light up. I don't know if you guys can see that here in the video, because I do have the lights here for the video, so it may kind of drown those out, but the ears light up with like a yellowish color, which I think is really cool. I didn't even notice that while I was playing the game, but it happens when I hit the right trigger button. So I was hitting that throughout the game. Probably just couldn't see because I was focusing on the actual gameplay, but exceptional controller here. The best controller for kids for the Nintendo Switch. Highly recommend it. And the cool thing about this is I actually reached out to NYXI when I was testing this product out and getting ready to do this video. I told them I was just floored and blown away by their product, and they actually gave me a coupon code to share with you guys here on the channel. So if you're interested in picking up one of these or interested in picking up anything from NYXI, the coupon code will work across their entire site. When you go through your checkout process, on the last page, there's a spot that says coupon code. If you type in RetroPieGuy, you'll get 10% off. It's not life-changing or anything, but every dollar counts. Save some money. Type in RetroPieGuy on checkout and save that 10%. But that's going to do it for today. If you enjoyed this video and you found this information helpful to you, be sure to hit the like button. It's a huge help to me here on YouTube. And if you want to stay in the loop for all future videos, definitely hit that subscribe button down there. You'll be in the loop for all future videos that I put up here on the RetroPieGuy YouTube channel. But again, that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching.